So for most guys, they don't really realize that women's experience with online dating or dating apps is a lot different than it is for men. First of all, men are biologically, neurologically, a lot more influenced by visual appearance than women are. Now, it may sound counterintuitive to what you've experienced, but if you want to read a book on the male brain, then I would recommend a book called The Male Brain. And I'll put a link below for that if you're interested. But just understand that men are actually more influenced by visual appearance, physical appearance of a woman than women are of men. Of course, we do notice men's looks and where they fall on the scale of attractiveness as far as just looks go, but that is just a first impression, and there are other factors that are actually more important than looks for women if they are looking for a long-term relationship or just something more serious than a one-night hookup. And I understand dating sites from a woman's perspective because way back in the day when I was single, I tried out a lot of different dating sites. I was on Match, I was on OkCupid, I was on Plenty of Fish, Fitness Singles, Christian Mingle, I think I was on. I was on another one that is no longer even active. So I think there was like 9 or 10 different dating sites that I've tried. And I also started going on real fake dates. I did a 50 first dates project about 5 years ago where, because of what my experience was online with guys, I thought, well, you know, they could use some help with their profile. And then when I actually went on some dates, I realized that they could also use some help with their dating skill. And there were some commonalities that kind of stuck out from many of the dates. So I'll go through that in a little bit. And that's where actually I came up with my program, Double Your Online Dating. It's only $10, by the way, subject to change. So let's get back to what women experience online. And in the world in general. So women get approached a lot more than men do. However, things are changing. And in fact, the statistics for dating sites show that for relationships that tend to work out, that people end up together, I don't know if it's forever, but for whatever period of time, it's actually the woman who initiates contact with the guy in 40% of those relationships. Okay, let's move into photos. One of the main things with photos is it's a little bit counterintuitive. So in my Double Your Online Dating program, I put in there that you're going to need to have a photo of you smiling, which really you want a photo of you looking happy or joyful in some aspect of your life, because someone who is negative or looks depressed is just not attractive to women. So here's the part that's counterintuitive. You also want to have a photo of you looking serious or mysterious. And it actually shows that, or studies show that women are more attracted to men or more turned on by men who are stoic or brooding, which is kind of like almost cranky, but you don't want to look cranky. So you want to make sure that you have a photo where you're looking like you're enjoying yourself, you're happy, maybe even laughing. Laughing is great, especially if it's genuine. And you want to have a photo of you looking serious and or mysterious, because one, the happy photo tells a woman that you're going to be pleasant and fun to be with, and the serious photo will show her the sexy side of you, which is the part that gets her turned on. So if you're just looking for a hookup, then you're going to want to put in more photos of you being serious and mysterious than of photos of you being happy, happy, joy. And if you're looking for a relationship or hoping for a relationship, then you want to reverse that. You want to put in more photos of you being neutral or happy, but do put in a photo of you looking mysterious and sexy. So that's the main thing with photos. Your photos are a visual representation of your personality and lifestyle. And again, like I said, in my Double Your Online Dating program, there's a whole bunch of other tips on photos. So if you want more information on that, then definitely invest in that program. Like I said, it's only $10. So, you know, that's a cup of coffee, an expensive one, but still you can afford it. Okay, then let's go into write-up or your bio. So your bio is, again, it's sort of a description of who you are. Now, the fewer words you put in, the more that translates into being either lazy or shallow or only interested in a hookup. because obviously if you're not putting anything about your personality or your lifestyle in there, then she's going to assume that that's not important. And the only thing that really is important is the visual aspect of the site or app. So if you want a relationship, if you want a, or the potential for a relationship, then I suggest that you put words in. And they should tell a story. So in writing or in script writing, I took a class on script writing, and they kept emphasizing show, don't tell. So our words must show the story, not just tell the story. So you don't want a list of traits, you want a story. And remember, women are emotional creatures. So the more senses that are involved in the storytelling, in terms of sight, sound, descriptors, hearing, taste, whatever it is, the more involved and engrossed and engaged you become in the story. So instead of saying, for example, I like hiking, or just, interests are hiking, outdoors, put something about why you like that. So what it makes you feel, whatever. Like I've used this one before because it's something that appeals to me. Hiking, I feel closer to God when I'm in the mountains, or if that's your thing, or whatever it is, where a person can maybe become engrossed in the story and or relate to the story more so than just, I'm interested in hiking and coffee and theater and sports or whatever. Put something with more depth into your story, whether it's long or short, it doesn't matter. And depending on what site or app you're on will determine how many words you actually get to do that. One other thing about your write-up is if you are certain that you absolutely only want a relationship or absolutely only want a hookup, it's okay to put that in there. And again, I've stated in another video that if you're going to disclose that you want to be in a relationship, then don't put that, you're looking for the first girl that shows up. You would put something a bit more subtle, like, I'm ready for a relationship. Now it's just a matter of finding the right gal. Those are for guys who are maybe on like the Match or Plenty of Fish or dating sites that offer a lot more word, like where you can write in more words. It's okay to state that, just don't make it seem like you're anxious for the first person who shows up. Okay, so that's with write up. Again, WR Online Dating goes into a lot more detail and a lot more tips on that. Third is your first communication. So this is where a lot of guys drop the ball because it's tricky. If she hasn't reached out to you and you're reaching out to her, she will potentially take the time to look at your profile, and she will do that based on what you say in your first contact with her, if there's a way for you to contact her. Sometimes it's just swipe right, swipe left. But if there's actually a message feature of the dating site and you're sending her a message, then 2 points here. One, you never want to send the message, hey, or what's up, or how are you? So boring. That will not make you stand out. Women get a lot of that. And it just really shows, again, laziness or lack of creativity or lack of enthusiasm or lack of interest in her actual profile. So instead, what you want to do is actually look at her profile. And if there's words, great, read the words because you're going to take from that. Or if there aren't words and there's just photos, then you're still going to look at her photos. And if there's a photo that tells more of a story about who she is as a person, not just what she looks like visually, then you're going to extrapolate from that and add that to your first message. So here's the components of what you're going to put in your first message. 1, something that is relevant to her profile or profile photos that is non-sexual, but potentially a compliment. I'll give you an example. The next thing is that you're going to want to make sure that your first message is relatively short. So you're not going to drone on and on because she gets lots of messages, especially if she's attractive, and she's not going to want to read through them all. So not too short, but just enough. Next tip on your first contact. You want to make her giggle, chuckle, or at least smile, which means that you might put something in there that's a little bit funny. But it doesn't have to be too funny unless that's your style. If you want to go super funny, then go super funny. But add a little bit of something that lightens the message, because women are instinctively on guard whenever a guy approaches them, whether it's in real life or in online. And 4, you want to include an open-ended question that will compel her to respond. Closed-ended question. Example, do you like hiking? Closed-ended statement, I see you like hiking. Now here's the example I will give you for an opener that includes all of the aforementioned tips. Just the tip. Hey Ashley, great hiking pick. One of my bucket list goals, the Inca Trail, ... if we're ever allowed to travel again, wink. What about you? If you could travel anywhere in the world and money was no object, where would you go and why? Now that seems a bit cookie cutter. You can word it a little bit differently depending on your personality or choose something different, but that's just an example of something that is more interesting than, hey, what's up? Or I like hiking too, which is, yeah, okay, that's information, but it doesn't tell the story. So that is right up bio. Again, WR Online Dating has a lot more tips on that. As you probably know from my other videos, women's primary need is to feel safe. It's why I'm going to recommend the coffee date. Normally, I don't recommend a coffee date unless it's considered a pre-date or not even a date, get to know you, kind of see if you actually want to go on a real date. And there are reasons why I recommend the real dinner date. That is actually in my program as well, but you'll want to take that with a grain of salt until you both feel comfortable enough with each other to be able to get to that stage. Coffee date. So coffee and a walk, or if you're young, like if you're maybe under 25 or a teenager, then you can suggest maybe coffee and a drive, or skip the coffee and just go for a drive, but meet somewhere first so she feels safe. Women need to feel safe with men because automatically you guys are bigger, stronger, even if you're the same size, because of you were, brewing and marinating in the womb with testosterone, your muscle is denser than ours and you have more aggression hormones. So the reality is that women automatically don't feel safe with men, even if they feel safe with you. And what happens is that it makes us feel more feminine when you're masculine, when we do feel a little bit unsafe. But the reason for that is because once we trust you, we then trust that you'll be able to protect us from other potentially unsafe men. But when you're first meeting up with a woman in real life, she knows nothing about you. She doesn't know if you're a shreddies killer. And so you want to make sure that she's going to feel safe with you. So meet somewhere, publicly. And then if she feels comfortable with you from there, you can go for a drive. Sometimes I find that with younger guys, like going for a walk or sitting in a coffee shop, having to be, face to face can feel a little awkward. And it's kind of fun to be able to have something that distracts you, driving around or listening to music or whatever. But obviously if you're not in that stage and you're older, like over 30 or above, then going for a walk and having a coffee or sitting in a coffee shop is appropriate and not as awkward. I mean, obviously all first dates can feel awkward. Okay, now the best dating site for you or dating app. Generally speaking, depending on what your intended relationship goals are, will determine what sites you go on. And I do say sites, generally I recommend going on 2 or 3 different sites, but I'll tell you how to not overlap in just a moment. First of all, which sites are best for you. If you're looking for a relationship, then the sites that extract or require the most information from you to be able to sign up or have more access, and or if they charge money, then you're going to find that there'll be more people who are serious about finding an actual partner on those sites. There's going to be flakes everywhere, but you'll just have a better chance of someone who's actually looking for potentially a long-term relationship than a site or an app like Tinder that really only requires photos. And if you want to put it right up, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. So if you're above like 25, 30, then Tinder's probably not going to be the place where you're going to find a relationship. It's more of a hookup site. But if you're younger, then what generally happens on Tinder is that there's no intention. People are just like, hey, let's just get together. They don't actually have any relationship goals. They just want to find someone they feel comfortable with. And if it's, short-term, great. And if it turns into something longer, great too. But there's less long-term intention with younger people on Tinder or the apps that don't require a lot of information. Okay, now how to not overlap. If you want to get the best bang for your buck, then you want to go with sites that potentially won't have the same clientele on all of them. So, for example, OkCupid and Match, they may have a lot of the same people. And if you're on both of those, then you know that you're on both of those. But you may want to go with, for example, let's say either OkCupid or Match, for example, and fitness singles, people who are, more into fitness, or one of those and Our Time, which is more for people who are over 50. So you don't want to go on a bunch of different sites that are going to have the same stock of people looking on them. So try to vary it up a little bit. And if you're kind of in the under 35, under 30 range, then you might go on, OkCupid and Tinder. Or if you're Christian, you might go on, Match and eHarmony. And then, of course, people are asked, like, how much time should I spend on a dating site? Well, the easy answer for that is how much time would you have available to spend with a special someone in your life? You have to be able to make time for someone. Now, you don't want to make this a full-time job. So whatever time that you have for making space in your life for a person, I would cut that in half. Don't do more than half your time on dating sites, and do the other half of your time out in the real world, having a life, not necessarily looking for love, but having a life. And again, as I mentioned, in my Double Your Online Dating, you get more tips on first communication. I give you a bunch of other date ideas, and also follow up after the first date and your initial communications. So get that and let me know what dating sites you've tried and what your experience was with them. Write a comment below. Thank you so much for your donations. They've really helped. And please do watch this next video, one of those two.